Hey Samuel,
Hey, Sydney.
what do you know about the movie Promising Young Woman?
All I know is that this movie was promising a lot of murder, and basically none of it happened.
I'm glad you're here on this Sunday. I'm going to get right into the message. I'm going to tell it like it is, as they say. Oh, I heard a hallelujah. Did you think I don't know what the hell is going on? And a lot of strange places. Where in the hell have you been? Hell fire. Hell fire. Hell fire. All right. Okay. There's something else, too.
Hello, and welcome to the Satire Fire. I'm Sydney,
And I'm Samuel.
and today we are promising you a really interesting episode. We will be discussing, I hope that happens for you, truly. We'll be discussing the 2020 movie Promising Young Woman. It's a thriller-esque movie, but it's not particularly... I mean, it's thrilling. I don't know. That's up to you to decide.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like towing the line of being like a dramedy, where it's definitely dramatic. It's got comedic elements of it. It's not really willing to be shoehorned into a very specific genre. Like it is, we'll talk more about it, but it is definitely trying to follow in the steps of like the rape revenge genre, which is very well established, but it definitely bucks a lot of those tropes.
But I really like this movie as just a casual movie watcher. I really enjoy this movie, and we'll see what Samuel thinks about it. We're discussing this movie as an interlude between our last book and our next book. So if you've been here with us the past few weeks, we have done a 3-part series on Her Body and Other Parties, the collection of short stories by Carmen Maria Machado. We did 3 episodes where in each of the 3 episodes we discussed 1 or 2 of the short stories in the book fully, rather than, if you've listened to our earlier series, we usually do 1 plot summary episode, 1 context episode, and 1 analysis, but we mashed that all into 1 episode because they're short stories. So anyways, if you've listened, great, thanks for being here. And if you haven't, maybe go back and listen, because some of the themes of those stories we'll be discussing today when talking about Promising Young Woman. And if you are just here for book content and you're like, I don't care about movies, that's all right. Next week, we will be starting our next book, which is American Psycho by
Bret Easton Ellis.
Bret Easton Ellis. And Samuel will be leading us in that series. So lots of book content to be found. But right now, we're here to do a little interlude. But before that, Samuel, have you been watching or reading anything recently?
Yeah, so since this is a movie episode, I'll talk about something that I've been watching lately. A movie that I saw not too long ago that I really enjoyed was the 1981 movie Miss 45. And I think that it goes really well with the movie that we're talking about today, as far as like themes and plot points and stuff like that. It follows a mute woman who works as a seamstress in New York City, who through pure bad luck ends up getting sexually assaulted 2 times in the same day, and this causes her to just snap and start going on a murdering spree, killing every man that she can. And It is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed watching it. Seeing her character progress throughout the movie is really cool. I think that it's got some interesting things to say. I don't love all of it because I think that there's a couple of choices that make the character a little bit less sympathetic than she probably should be. But overall, I liked it a whole lot. It was a 4-star movie for me, and I definitely recommend watching it if that's something that you are interested in. It does, in comparison to Promising Young Woman, the scenes of sexual assault are a lot like they're shown on screen, which is not a thing that happens in Promising Young Woman. So if that's something that you are not interested in, totally understandable. Don't watch it. But if you can handle that and can get to the other side of it, like 20 minutes in, it starts becoming a killing spree by the woman. And it's free on Tubi. So I highly recommend it.
I guess, like, the scenes in Promising Young Woman are assault adjacent in that it's, like, the beginnings of assaults.
Yeah, and then it, like, is talking... We'll talk more about it, but it's, like, talking around a specific incident, and then the audio from that incident is played, but you don't actually see anything.
Yeah.
Whereas with Miss 45, she's, like, assaulted on screen. And you still, like, you don't... It's not incredibly graphic, but it does happen, and you know what's happening.
Mm-hmm. I'll talk about a movie as well that I watched semi-recently. I can't remember. It was maybe like about a month ago. I don't watch movies that often, so like I don't know. It's like the most recent movie I watched. I think.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like I only watch movies when I'm just like. And I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again for all the new listeners. Like, I kind of just, like, watch what I feel like, whereas, like, reading, I'm more intentional about my choices. But with watching movies and shows, I just kind of, like, if I'm in the mood, I'll watch something new. But I have a few comfort movies and comfort shows that I just watch over and over and over. And I'm not like that with reading particularly, so
in contrast to you, we are, for audience, so that you're aware, we're... late August, and so far I have watched 139 movies this year.
Yeah, definitely not. I haven't watched that many. But I finally watched, and I'm talking about it because I watched it once, and then I watched it 2 more times within the next, like, 2 weeks.
Sick.
Red, White, and Royal Blue. Okay,
I'm familiar. I've not seen it, but I'm familiar.
Yeah, and so... Gay boy media, for all the gay boy media lovers out there. There's so many good, like, gay boy romance or romance adjacent movies, but there's not lesbian woman, lesbian girl movie. Like, I don't know, I feel like, or just like MLM, that also stands for multi-level marketing.
Which all the gays love.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, WLW content, there is, but I feel like there's less, like, movies that are fully about that, and they're just, like, kind of romance movies, but I feel like there's a lot of, like, romance MLM movies. So I'm just, like, starting
totally disagree with you. I'll give you a list after this. There's so many lesbian romance movies. I had 3 of them pop to mind.
Pure romance. I don't know. I mean, there definitely are. I just feel like maybe it's just that I always call it gay boy media. That's not an official term. It's just a term that I say because I think it's funny. But I feel like maybe they get more popular. Maybe that's what it is.
I think that I don't think that they're necessarily better. I think that I can name a lot of lesbian movies that are better than the gay movies that I've seen. I think that part of it is just the mass media appeal, where I think that this is kind of going back to some of the stuff that we talked about with Her Body and Other Parties, where gay men are often romanticized by straight women, whereas lesbian women are sexualized by straight men. And so I think that it's easier for a gay romance movie to take off in the pop culture as like a soft, cute boy movie because women are willing to adopt that narrative. Whereas I think that a lot of lesbian movies kind of have to add in another element to make them interesting in a way that doesn't condone just dudes sexualizing people for no reason.
Yeah, I don't know. I was talking about this recently, like, with a couple different people, just because I've read and watched several, like, this year I've watched several shows, movies, and I've read a couple books that have to do with, like, queer men and that's the love story. And I'm like, wow, there's like some good stuff out here. And then
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the like lesbian or like just WLW, not just romance, but like books that I've read, I often think are just bad. But also, I'm not really a romance reader, so this is maybe a me problem. This wasn't the discussion I was supposed to be having. Anyway, sorry guys, went on a tangent. But yeah, anyways, I watched Red, White, and Royal Blue, and I loved it. It's so cheesy, but I loved it. Watched it like 4 times now. It's so cute. It's so dramatic. There's this scene where Prince Henry, and so for those of you who don't know, like it's a book, and I haven't read the book because I don't really like romance that much, but I'm kind of thinking I might read the book now because I liked the movie so much. And I do think it will be like cheesy, stupid romance book. But it's the son of the president of the United States, and this is fictional world, obviously. And his name is Alex Claremont Diaz. So Alex Claremont Diaz is the son of the president of the United States, and Prince Henry is a prince. He's the spare prince, like in the British crown. And basically it's kind of like an enemies to lovers plot. But my favorite scene is Alex is like, why don't you want to be with me, blah blah blah, and he's kind of confronting Henry about his feelings, and then Henry's like, for once, I wish you could... I can't do a British accent, sorry guys. She could see me for who I am and not who you want me to be. Sometimes I don't think you know me at all. My life is the crown and yours is politics, and I will not trade one prison for another. And if you know that sound, there's like a TikTok trend of doing that with books, which we've done on our social media. But it's a really good scene, and I really like Red, White, and Royal Blue. Like, I don't know if in the grand scheme of like movies, if it's like a good movie for all you movie watchers out there, but I'd recommend it. So,
and then for all of you movie watchers out there, if you are looking for some good lesbian movies, a short and not at all complete list is Bound by the Wachowski sisters, rocks. Drive Away Dolls, rocks. Love's Lies Bleeding, rocks. And also Bottoms.
Oh, I love Bottoms. Love. That one I've seen. I think it's one of my most watched movies. So, would definitely recommend Bottoms. But are the other ones like older movies, or?
No, Drive Away Dolls and Love Lies Bleeding both came out in the past like 3 years.
What? Drive Away Doll. What is this? Well, it has a 5.4 out of 10 on IMDb, but interesting. Okay. All right, well, let's get into Promising Young Woman then. So this movie, the main character, Cassie, is played by Carey Mulligan, who, one of my other favorite movies, The Great Gatsby 2013 version, she plays Daisy in. So we're really getting my favorite movie crossovers here. But Carey Mulligan plays a woman in her early 30s, I think, is what we're led to believe. It doesn't ever... It's her birthday at one point, but I don't know if it...
It says at one point that the events of the movie are taking place 7 years after the inciting incident, and the inciting incident happened in college. So I would assume
Or
also
medical
like...
school.
Yeah, in medical school. And so I would also assume early to mid-30s.
Yeah. And so Cassie is early to mid-30s, and we'll get more into like what's going on in her life, but basically she lives at home with her parents and works at a coffee shop. She's not doing a lot with her life. But the movie opens with her in a nightclub, and she appears to be just like really, really so drunk, falling over, can't stand up, can't even sit up. And, you know, also in this nightclub are a group of men, young men, and young also late 20s, early 30s, not young. One of them being Adam Brody, which, well, a guy played by Adam Brody, which is kind of funny because I feel like Adam Brody plays nice guys in most things he's in. But anyways, and so Adam Brody's character, I don't even remember his name. It's irrelevant, honestly.
Yeah, I think that she writes it down, but I don't know if he ever says it.
Yeah, she plays this guy. He plays this guy in a bar, and the men are kind of like making jokes about Cassie over there, like they're kind of misogynistic and just like not unkind comments. And Jerry, is that his name?
I think so. Maybe. One of the three guys is named Jerry.
I'm just going to say Adam Brody because I'm getting it all confused. So Adam Brody goes over and approaches Cassie and is like, hey, you okay? And is being really nice to her. Like, do you need help getting home? And so they get in like a taxi or something and head to her apartment. Or no, his...
They are originally heading to her apartment, and then on the way, he's like, well, you know, my apartment is actually on the way. It wouldn't be that far to stop if we wanted to have one more drink before we call it a night.
Yeah. And so they end up at his apartment, basically. And she's there, and she's still so drunk, like barely can speak. And he's making her a drink, and she's like, no, I need to lie down. And he's like, okay, so he like picks her up and he carries her to the bed, but then he starts trying to have sex with her. And he starts trying to take her pants off, and that's what we were saying at the beginning. It's very sexual assault adjacent because it's clearly not consensual, but very quickly that stops because then Cassie sits up and like looks Adam Brody's character straight in his eyes and is like, what are you doing? And it's clear that suddenly she's not drunk, and she hasn't been drunk. She's very sober.
Yeah, she had been faking it in order to get him into a situation where he was going to take advantage of a woman he thought was drunk.
Yeah. And then he looks really scared, and it kind of pans to the next morning, like cut scene. That's what it's called. Next morning. And she's walking home, and it's kind of like funny because this whole movie is making you think like, what's she doing to these men? She's got like red stains on her clothes, but then you see that she's eating like a jelly donut, and it's just that the jelly donut has dripped onto her clothes. But when you first see, you're like, blood? But no.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is playing a lot into the marketing of this movie. I remember when this movie was first getting marketed and ads were coming out, and it was really playing into the potential that she was killing these guys as a result of them attempting to sexually assault a woman that they presumed to be drunk.
Really drunk. Yeah. When I first watched this movie, that first scene, I was unclear if she killed him or not, because it doesn't really show you how it plays out. It just shows you right as she shows that she's not drunk. But anyways, so she's walking home. Some construction workers catcall her. And all throughout the movie, this thing is happening where we're just seeing how men can be like sleazy and disrespectful towards women. And so that the construction workers are just another example of that. So then, like I said, she's at work, her coffee shop job, and we haven't really learned a lot about her or her life story yet at this point. But then this guy walks in, played by Bo Burnham, Ryan, and we find out that Ryan went to medical school with Cassie. So now we know, like, Cassie dropped out of medical school, or clearly if she didn't drop out, she didn't finish, or she didn't, like, pursue a career in medicine. And Ryan is flirting with her, and they're having, like, some banter. She spits in his coffee. He drinks it anyways. Like, I don't know. It's kind of silly. And he asks for her number, and she gives him a fake number. And then, she continues on. She goes to another bar, does the same thing with another guy. And this time it takes it a little further into showing us what happens once he realizes that she's not drunk. And she basically tries to scare them shitless. Like, that's what we realize she does.
Yeah, she just like verbally confronts them and tries to make them recognize how fucked up it was what they were about to do. I guess in an attempt to like very scared straight-esque, like, oh, they won't do it again because they're scared of the consequences of what might happen.
Yeah. And so we're learning that she does this a lot, and she has this little journal that we see at the beginning of the movie that she writes the names of all the men that she does this to. And while she does that, she wears this scrunchie. It's not important yet, but she wears this scrunchie, and she keeps a journal of all the men that she coaxes into, not coaxes, that's maybe the wrong word, tricks into trying to assault her when she's drunk, but then they realize she's not actually drunk. And so this is basically all she does with her life, is this and work at the coffee shop and live at home with her parents. She only has one friend. It's her boss, played by Laverne Cox, Gail. And Gail's like really encouraging her to go out with this Ryan guy, but Cassie gave Ryan the wrong phone number. But you're in luck because he turns back up at the coffee shop and he's like, hey, please go out with me. And so she agrees after kind of some encouragement from Gail. And when she's at the not the coffee shop, when they're on their date, I guess they're at the coffee shop.
No, their first date, they go to a diner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So they start dating, and it's going well, but you can tell that she's a little bit, like, removed. Like, she's not fully opening up. She's very cautious. And at one point, they're talking. I feel like this happened at the coffee shop. That's why I said this. And they're talking, and he mentions some of their old classmates from medical school. And he's like, whatever happened? You know, like, why'd you drop out of medical school? Why'd you leave? And he's like, oh, you remember this person? You remember this person? And he's like, you know Al? And he mentions this guy named Al. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Al's getting married. Can you believe that? And this is where we learn that Al was a big reason why Cassie dropped out of medical school, because she reacts very, like, viscerally to the mention of Al, and, like, clearly is just doesn't want to hear about it. And so then we start learning the actual story of what happened to her. And so basically, when Cassie was in medical school, she had a best friend, Nina. And Nina Fisher, was also in the school and got really, really drunk one night at a party with, like, I think it was like a frat party or something like that. And it was like with all their classmates. And then Al raped her at that party, but like in front of everyone. And so
specifically all the male classmates.
And we don't know this yet in the movie, but there's a video taken of it, and like people were watching him and they were, encouraging him. And at the time, Cassie and Nina reported it. They reported it to the dean of the school. They tried to like get something done, but people didn't believe them. Nothing happened. Nina eventually committed suicide because of like the after effects of all of this on her mental health. And Cassie had dropped out of school prior to that happening to like try to take care of Nina, because she was just, going through so much. And then once Nina killed herself, Cassie just kind of became what she is today. And so I feel like I'm taking too long to like do the summary. And so basically this like is the inciting incident of the rest of the movie, where she finds out that Al's getting married. And so she's like, you know what? I'm tired of doing revenge the way I've been doing it, trying to teach these men not to assault or rape women. I'm going straight to the source. And so she decides to like get revenge on everyone involved in this situation. And so she meets up with some of her old female friends separately from medical school, and is like, do you remember this? Do you remember what happened? Why didn't you believe Nina when she told you? And so she confronts them, and she confronts the dean of the medical school that they went to, who's played by Connie Britton. I don't know why I'm giving the names of people, but it's just like a lot of people that you might know. But she confronts the dean and brings up how, like, Nina reported the assault. Why didn't you do anything? Why did you take Al's side? But then the dean doesn't do anything about this. And then she confronts this lawyer whose job it was.
Yeah, who was representing Al during all of this going down.
Yeah, and he not only represented Al, but represented multiple men who had allegations of assault or rape against them.
Yeah.
And basically got them cleared. And so she confronts him. So she's confronting all these people and trying to, like, get them to admit that they did wrong. And all of them don't admit it except for the lawyer.
Yeah.
And the lawyer's like, I regret this so much. Like, this is the biggest regret of my life.
Yeah, like, not specifically this case, but just like that he has spent his life doing this. He says, and I can't remember the exact phrasing of it, but something along the lines of his doctors said that it was a psychotic break, but really he was struck by his conscience or something along those lines, and he's fully stopped practicing law, and it, like, begs Carey Mulligan's character for forgiveness for Nina's sake.
Mm-hmm. And she goes to really extreme lengths in the process of confronting all these people. Like with the dean, she basically kidnaps the dean's daughter.
Yeah, and like convinces the dean that she's taken her daughter to a frat and just dropped her off with a bunch of drunk guys, kind of as like a scare tactic, when really she didn't do that. She just dropped her off at a diner and then pretended.
Yeah. And so it's really like, you can tell it's like really starting to impact her a lot, and it's impacting her relationship with Ryan, because this is still going on. Like this whole time she and Ryan are dating, and she's starting to like really develop strong feelings for him, but she can't let go of all these other things that she's focused on. And so he knows something's off, and it really comes to a head when she's at another nightclub doing the thing that she always does. And she's leaving with this guy who, pretending to be too drunk to, stand. And she sees Ryan. Like, she and this guy she's leaving with pass Ryan going into the club.
Yeah, so Ryan is just led to believe that she, while not wanting to be physically intimate or get too close with him, has gone behind his back and is picking up strangers at clubs.
Mm-hmm. And so one of the women that was a former peer of hers in medical school that she had confronted, she had played a trick on that woman as well to try to make her think that she might have been assaulted. That sounds crazy, but that is what she did. And that woman's been calling her incessantly, and she's like trying to be like, what happened? I don't know what happened. And finally Cassie responds to her, meets up with her, and is like, no, that you're okay, nothing happened. And this woman was like, finally, I'm sorry that I didn't believe Nina, that was wrong, and gives her a phone with the video of Al raping Nina. And Cassie's watching the video, and she hears Ryan's voice in the video, which makes her realize that this guy that she's starting to fall in love with was present when Nina was raped and also didn't do anything about it. And so she goes to his job, like his pediatrics office. She confronts him, and then at this point, like, she's just like frantic. Like, she's kind of losing it. Like, she's so angry at everyone, and she's obsessing over this revenge, and it's not really, it's working, but not really. Like, she's not feeling any better. And she leaves, they break up, and
yeah, he basically threatened. She threatens him with, I'm going to release this video to everyone who knows you and ruin your life unless you tell me where Al's bachelor party is going to be.
Mm-hmm. So he does, and Cassie dresses up as a nurse, like in like a stripper-esque nurse costume, and shows up and pretends to be like hired for the bachelor party. And we once again are kind of led to believe that is she gonna like murder this entire house of men? Like, I don't know. And she drugs and also gets like all of the men there drunk except for Al. She gets him, he's drinking, but she doesn't drug Al. So like all the other men have passed out basically from the drugs she's given them. And then they do pass out eventually, but she takes Al up to the bedroom for like, you know, like a tease, like
like a private dance.
Private dance, bachelor party, whatever. And then when she gets up there, she handcuffs him to the bed and she's being really playful. And then she's like,
he asks her what her name is.
Oh,
and she says that her name's Candy, and he says, well, no, what's your real name? And she says her name is Nina Fisher.
Yeah. And he starts freaking out, and he's like, why would you say that? And then she reveals to him who she is, and she's confronting him about this, and she basically says, you made your mark on Nina for her life, and it killed her. And so now I'm going to make Nina's mark on you, basically, like saying like she's going to take a scalpel and carve Nina's name into his stomach is what she's saying she's going to do. And so she grabs out of her little nurse bag that she has, she grabs the scalpel and goes to do it. But he's able to break out of the handcuffs, and there's this whole like wrestling back and forth scene, but basically he suffocates her with a pillow and kills her. And the next morning, Al sleeps in the bed next to Cassie's dead body because he still has one hand cuffed to the bed. And then Al's best friend, who is Schmidt from New Girl.
Yeah.
Al's best friend comes up, and he's like a very comical character, and Al's crying, and he's like, I murdered this girl, and I don't know Max Greenfield's actual name I can't remember, but Schmidt, he's like, it's not your fault, you're perfect, it's like kind of like homoerotic almost, like and he's telling him he's perfect, he did nothing wrong, no, it's fine, we'll take care of it. And so they burn her body, they have like a giant bonfire and burn her body, and
and all of the evidence and stuff.
Yeah. So Cassie's parents file a missing persons report, and the detective visits Ryan's office and is like, hey, we're looking for her. Do you know where she might have gone? And Ryan kind of betrays Cassie by not saying anything about the bachelor party, which sucks because we thought maybe Ryan might have redemption, but and then it's the wedding, Al's wedding, and basically we learned that before Cassie died, in case something happened, she had set up several things to happen over the next few days. And so the lawyer, who was remorseful, she had sent him a envelope, and basically it told him her plan, like, if anything happens to me, this is what I'm doing. And also, like, I don't remember, I think that was it mainly. Just like,
it was like a letter, but then
information.
also it was the phone that had the video of the rape on it.
Yeah, but then also everyone at the wedding, like, simultaneously, like, all the people who were in medical school with Al receive the video on their phone.
That doesn't happen.
Ryan, I thought that did happen.
No, it just Ryan starts getting the texts.
Oh, just Ryan. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Take that out. I lied. And then at the wedding, Ryan gets a text from Cassie that was like pre-scheduled to send that says, you didn't think this was the end, did you? It is now. Enjoy the wedding. And then police show up and they survey the grounds and everything, and they find half of a heart necklace, a friendship necklace that belonged to Cassie and Nina, and Gail had the other half. Like, Cassie had given it to her. And so that's what they used to be able to arrest Al. And then the movie ends with Ryan getting one last text message from Cassie that says, "Love, Cassie and Nina," with a winky face. The end.
The end.
How was that? Was that a good... I feel like it's kind of like there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I think that basically covers it. The only thing that I was going to point out more in depth, because I think that it's important, is the scene with her and Madison, the other girl that went to college with her and Nina, where in the confrontation of talking to her about the past, she intentionally gets Nina drunk. She intentionally gets Madison drunk.
Yeah.
And Madison has been talking about how Nina shouldn't necessarily have been drinking. She shouldn't have put herself in that situation. It was easy for people to not believe her, and that's why Madison didn't believe her. And then once Cassie realizes that Madison still isn't remorseful for not speaking up against the men at the college, she then goes over to a guy at the bar who she has paid to take Madison up to a hotel room. And it's left relatively unclear as to what happens at this moment, but you just know that the next day Madison is calling Cassie, asking questions, very clearly under the impression that that man raped her. And then Cassie just lets her stew on this for presumably weeks, until eventually Madison shows up at her front door and, like, in person confronts her, at which point Cassie reveals, "No, he was just watching over you, nothing actually happened." Which is a wildly fucked up thing to do. Like, I don't care what the other person did. For you to trick them and try to convince them that they have been sexually assaulted, I think is unforgivable. That is a fucked up thing for her to have done.
Well, I don't think we're supposed to, like, think that Cassie is a good person. And, like, I think we're supposed to, like, sympathize with her and her mission, but we're supposed to be like, she's taking this too far.
Yeah.
But yeah, and she's the one, the Madison, or the friend who she tricks into believing that she had been raped or assaulted, is the one who gives her the phone eventually and says, "Yeah, here's the video." Yeah, no, I think that I actually agree that that's the worst thing she did. Because even with, it's kind of one of those questions of, like, oh, if something's for the greater good, or if people aren't truly hurt, like, physically, is it okay? Because she does a similar thing to the dean, where she convinces her that her daughter is alone at a frat party with a bunch of, like, her teenage daughter is there with a bunch of, like, over the age of 18 men. And that's psychological trauma. I mean, it doesn't last long. She does tell the dean, "Your daughter's fine. I didn't put your daughter in danger." But she really, put her in a mental state that was very terrifying, and, like, also did technically kidnap the daughter, even though that she took the daughter to, like, a safe place and didn't do anything to hurt her. And so all throughout she's doing things that a little bit toe or cross the line of, like, was that an appropriate thing to do? But it's interesting because she's doing all of it both as, like, revenge and to, like, make the world a better place in a way, or in her mind that's what she's trying to do, but also as, like, a coping mechanism, because, we see that she too has not really healed from everything that happened.
Yeah, I think that also part of it is trying to get people to be remorseful for their actions by like giving them a taste of their own medicine, where it's like with Madison, it's you would not believe this person because you think that they put themselves in a situation that they shouldn't have been in, and so I'm going to put you in the same situation that you shouldn't be in. With the dean, it's like you wouldn't believe us because you were too willing to believe in the intrinsic goodness of young men that attend your school. Which during that scene, the dean talks about how accusations, like you can't do anything necessarily because there's not really any evidence, and accusations like this happen once or twice a week at the college. So it's clearly like an ingrained culture of this being a thing at the university. And so as a result of her not siding immediately with the victims of the situation, she forces her hand into, well, what if the victim is your daughter? Are you going to side with the boys now, or are you going to side with the potential victim in the situation? And so it like kind of logically makes sense when she's doing these things, but it is like, it's not a girl's girl thing to be doing.
No, definitely not. So I think like thinking about the themes of this movie, clearly it's, you know, it's critiquing rape culture and sexual assault and like the prevalence of that. It's just really like violence against young women and how that upends or can upend a woman's life.
Yeah, like the whole title is pointing towards the trend of like promising young men, where it's you don't want to ruin a man's life over what could potentially be a false accusation, when in our real life society generally a woman's life is going to be ruined as a result of what the young man did. But that's not necessarily the story that gets told. It's always the, well, even if there's no way to prove that he did do it, and so an accusation shouldn't ruin a young man's life. And even if he did do it, he was just a kid. You shouldn't let a mistake when you were young ruin your life. And like, there's different times when things like that come up, like with Ryan being confronted. He's like, oh, I was just young. I was just a kid. Are you not ashamed of anything that you did when you were younger? Yeah, so it's like really pointing heavily to those kinds of societal, systemic issues that we see a lot.
I think it's really, so if you listen to any of our Her Body and Other Parties episodes, in the first one we discussed the short story The Husband Stitch, which also deals with not really somewhat violence against women, but more so just like the way that a woman is viewed in a man's world.
Yeah, I would say that it talks about the way in which our society is violent towards women. Like, not necessarily an individual acute case of violence against a woman, but the chronic condition of being a woman and the violence that occurs to you as a result.
And something that we discussed in that episode is how, like a lot of times in these cases of reported sexual assault, rape, harassment, whatever, the woman either is not believed at all, or these cases like aren't taken seriously, no action is taken as a result. Maybe the case gets dropped, maybe the man is convicted but then it's overturned. Like, there's a lot of tactics that lawyers, like the guy in this movie, use to discredit the case that the woman is making. And we talked about some famous or powerful men in the world that have a lot of allegations against them and where they are today. And, the point was that they all are okay.
Yeah.
But we don't really hear about where the women are. And this movie is just an exact example of that. But what I think is like really interesting was this like story of the lawyer. Like that's not something I've seen in another piece of media dealing with this, because I feel like I've seen like movies, read books, things about like this exact topic, but it doesn't do, people aren't talking about the lawyers and like the role they're playing and
Yeah.
getting, especially in the cases of like powerful men, and getting them acquitted of any of these allegations. And I don't know, I thought that was like an interesting part of this movie, because how do they feel? Like, you know, they're complicit in it as well, and I know that it's their job, just like if you're the defense attorney for alleged serial killer, that's your job. But like, I don't know, I thought that was an interesting concept to explore, because it's like, then what? Like you get, you do your job right and this person doesn't get convicted, but like how do you feel? And I don't know, like I just had, it's,
which I think that kind of leads into my major criticism with the movie. I think as somebody who watches a lot of movies, there's a lot of elements of this from a technical standpoint that I didn't really love, that I thought were a little bit poorly executed, which kind of makes sense. This was Emerald Fennell's like first big production for a feature-length film, so it would make sense that it has some like somewhat novice vibes to it. But the message of the movie kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Of it confronts very directly over the course of the story the ways in which the system tends to fail young women who have been victimized. And it looks at schools, and it looks at lawyers, and all of these different levels of the institution that are kind of built in such a way that it is really, really hard for someone who has been victimized to get the justice that they deserve. And then the end of the movie is essentially just her calling the cops. And she provides more evidence as a result of her death, but she does just call the cops. And so it kind of leaves the message of, what do you do in a situation in which you have been a victim? Well, first you've got to get more evidence, but then if you call the cops, everything's going to be okay. It might not be okay the first time because you didn't have the evidence, but if you get some evidence, then it'll be okay the second time around. And that irritated me in a way that I think if the movie had stuck to the way that it was marketed, where it's someone who has not gotten the justice that they deserve because the system was set up for them to fail, and so they are seeking and delivering their own form of justice through killing these guys. I think that's a significantly stronger movie with a much more impactful message than one that just kind of says, well, maybe guys should get maybe guys should just get a stern talking to, and then when that doesn't work, call the cops.
Well, we've heard the story of women killing men in revenge. Like, we've heard that. That's been done.
Yeah.
I like the ending, not because of the calling the cops part, but because I think it's really apathetic. I think it's like, this promising young woman was raped. Her life was destroyed. No one believed her. She killed herself. It also destroyed the life of her best friend, who life has been torn apart because of this incident, who can't have intimate relationships really with anyone, including like her friends and family, because of it, and just obsesses over the injustice of the world she's living in, and that eventually destroys her too. And like, while justice is served, I don't know if we're really supposed to see that as like justice is served, but more of like, okay, but her life was destroyed too. She died. Like, she just died. They both died.
Yeah.
And we don't really know what happens with Al. Like,
I mean, I would
He murdered
assume
someone, so
I would assume that he gets off for self-defense. Like, I think that obviously destroying the body is not going to... He's not going to necessarily get light off of that. But up until the point that he killed her, it could reasonably be argued that he was just defending himself.
Especially because she's not there
Yeah.
to tell her story. And so I feel like it's open-ended in terms of what happens to Al. And honestly, like, I think it's more just like the system sucks. Like, the injustice is so pervasive that it'll destroy you. And neither of them have happy endings. Like, maybe Al goes to prison, but, like, maybe he doesn't. We don't know. And, like, if we think about the way the world works and all those men that I was talking about a few episodes ago, they'll probably be fine. He'll probably be fine. He's like a medical school white man, medical school graduate white man. Like, he'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I kind of like the ending, not because it makes me feel good about life, but because it's like really realistic is not the right word, but they don't just like kill all the guys and it's like, okay, everything's okay now. It's okay that this girl got raped because she murdered a bunch of people after. Like, and that would be funny, and that's like a fun movie to watch. But I'm like, oh, that's been done before, so I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I think that it's been done before for a reason, though.
Yeah.
Because I think that kind of story is showing that while the systems may fail, nothing can take away your agency as an independent person. And I think that there's something very powerful about seeing someone who was a victim embrace that power to deliver the justice that they see fit. And I think that this movie kind of approaches the same topic, but I don't know. I just think that instead of a character having a gray morality because, yes, she's a victim, but also she's a murderer, it's really strange to me to have a character have gray morality because, yes, she has had her life torn apart because her friend was a victim and nobody believed her. But now she's victimizing people through psychological manipulation. Like, I don't know. I like the themes because there are movies that are in this genre that I do really enjoy. I just don't know if I liked the way they were executed in this one.
I like it, but I think that, I don't know, I just think it took a different path with the commentary it's making than a lot of movies do, and I liked that, but I can see what you're saying,
yeah,
and why it, like, feels different. And I think that it, too, could be a comment on, like, well, no, she still kind of has her agency at the end, because she still, after her death, controls the situation a bit, and, I don't know, I just feel like she didn't have anything to live for, like that, and so it's like, that's dramatic, but that's what the comment was. Yeah. Like, obviously it's an exaggeration, but like, even in the face of like environmental, like the environment around her, not environmental as in like trees,
yeah,
in the face of her environment and the constraints on her and the system that she was living in, she was just filled with so much anger and resentment that I felt like she kind of like lost her agency. Like I guess she was acting intentionally and she was making these choices, but I feel like she felt out of control like the whole time. Like she couldn't change anything. It's just she was out of control. And so really it was like she didn't have anything to live for except for justice, and she couldn't even get that, so she just dies.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think that's an interesting comment to make because like obviously you would hope that that's not what happens to a victim. Like, this isn't the ideal outcome. Yeah. Well, but I don't know. Interesting movie. I think she does an excellent job in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had thoughts on the acting in this movie, but
The one thing that I was going to mention that I didn't mention before is that her mom is played by Jennifer Coolidge,
Jennifer
who
Coolidge.
looks young enough in this movie that I was Googling how much older Jennifer Coolidge is than Carey Mulligan, because I was like, there's no way that she's old enough to be Carey Mulligan's mom. Turns out she is.
Yeah, Jennifer Coolidge. Yeah, I enjoyed the acting. I enjoyed the plot. I really like this movie. I've seen it several times now, and so that means something. Like if I'm rewatching a movie. All right, so let's go through the bookmarks of satire for this movie. This is something we do with all pieces of media that we consume. They are 5 markers that we use to determine how satirical something is. So starting out strong with humor, and this was very funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we have exaggeration, which I think, yes.
Yeah. It's definitely playing on particularly like the instances of catcalling, and then also the way in which men are talking to one another, where it's like, wow, I can't believe you'd think somebody that old would know better. I can't believe she's putting herself in a situation like this. Like, they're saying the quiet part out loud in a very exaggerated way.
And then we have irony.
I think that you could say that it's ironic that someone seeking justice for sexual assault tricks another person into thinking they were sexually assaulted.
Yeah. I don't think it's strongly ironic, but
yeah,
I think maybe a half point. I don't know.
Sure.
And then we have ridicule, and to an extent,
I think
with
it's
some of
ridiculing
the
the men for
characters.
sure.
Yeah, like especially the men who she meets on her nights out, where, and also just like I said, like the construction workers who like dramatically catcall her. Like clearly, not every man you pass on the street is gonna catcall you and act like a jerk, but in this movie they kind of do. And then lastly we have critique, and I would say yes to critique as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's 4.5 out of 5. Pretty dang satirical. And then what, I guess we've already talked a little bit about how we feel about the movie, but did you review this on Letterboxd? Did you give it a
I did.
rating?
You're not gonna like it. I gave this 1.5 stars. I did not like this movie at all.
No, that's so sad. Oh, I was trying to look up how many stars it has on Letterboxd. It has 3.7. So I don't really know how, what commonly are the star ratings of Letterboxd movies.
It's like what an average to slightly above average movie is going to have.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't have Letterboxd, but I think I'd give it 4 if I was gonna do it.
Okay.
So anyways, all right, so I wanted to close out by playing a game that I came up with for this one, which is we both have to create a fake name and a fake story for a night out. So we're on a night out and we're convincing someone of who we are. So kind of
to what end am I convincing someone? Is it just for my own personal amusement, or am I trying to pick someone up?
Yeah. No, it's just for your own personal amusement. Like, what's your identity? Like, you're on a night out and come up with a fake identity that you're gonna pretend to be on this night out. It's like we're going out to a club together and we're gonna convince. Maybe I should have warned you about this game. I just thought of it this morning and I was like, that's fun.
So I think that the direction that I would go in would be trying to convince someone that I have a career that no one in the world is interested in except for me. I want it to be the case that I tell someone what I do and it sounds incredibly boring to them, but I just insist on talking about it because I think it's really, really fun and a cool job.
Yes.
And so I think that this is not making fun of any of the people who have this job, because it is something that I think is really interesting, but I hope that if you have this job, you also admit most people probably don't give a shit about your job.
Our like number one podcast listener has this job, and then they're like, hey.
But I think that it would be really, really fun to try and convince people that I was a roadway safety engineer and tell people about how much I have to think about, well, should this intersection be a red light or a stop sign or a roundabout? And how do you do it in a way that makes pedestrians safe without annoying drivers? And what can you do to improve bicycling infrastructure without limiting bus capacities and stuff like that? Because I just think that I would start talking about analyzing traffic patterns and someone's eyes would just glaze over. And I'd be like, no, I promise. It's so cool.
And every time, like, I feel like in every conversation that was had, like, someone would be like, yeah, so when I was on this trip, and they start telling a story, and you're like, in the road safety world, we have this saying, and then you just bring everything back to road safety and traffic patterns, and, like, you won't talk about anything else.
Exactly.
I love it. I would try to convince people that I was a Nepo baby. But, like, I think I would come up with something, like, really obscure that they couldn't look up.
Okay.
Like my great-great-grandfather founded a oil plant and I think of, like, a really obscure country, but I'd have to do some research to make sure it was a place that, like, they actually do, like, get oil from. And I would, like, just something that's, like, not really, like, you don't know who they are, you don't know who this, like, founder person is.
Yeah.
And then I would just tell, like, wild Nepo baby stories. I'd be like, yeah, so when I was at boarding school in the south of France, and like, I would just, like, make things up that were crazy. Yeah, when I was at boarding school in the south of France, actually, Charlie XCX was visiting a nearby town, and we went to this club. We drove. We took the train into Paris because we heard Charlie XCX was gonna be there, and we waited forever at. I would need to, like. I don't know. We waited forever at what do they have in Paris?
Baguettes. Racism.
Oh yeah, we waited forever at this baguette, this little bakery. We had baguettes. We were just sitting there, and then we see Charlie XCX pass by. But then I approach her, and it's actually find out that she knows my aunt, and so then we got to go with Charlie XCX, and we.
This reminds me of a time that I was on a plane, and there were these two people sitting next to each other in front of me, who had not met before. They were both flying by themselves, and they happened to sit together. And the guy was just telling the woman his life story, and she seemed kind of into it. So he wasn't, like, being rude necessarily, but his life story was basically him going to college for social work and then starting to do social work in Chicago. And then he was like, yeah, but the issue was eventually I got scared, and the people that I was working with could tell that I was scared of what they could potentially do to me, and then you really lose all of your effectiveness once that happens. And so basically, once I got caring for people out of my system, I took a position at my dad's oil company. Now he's like a C-level executive at an oil company that his dad runs.
Once I got caring for people out of my system is crazy. I feel like in this persona that I am doing, I would give a first name. I'd be like, oh, my name's Amber. But when they ask for my last name, I'd be like, legally, I'm not allowed to tell you. I'm sorry. We've had too many incidents. Well, thank you for joining us today to listen to us talk again about something we don't agree upon. Wow, this is 4 episodes in a row where Samuel and I don't perfectly agree on the media we're talking about. So this has actually been the last episode of the Satire Fire. Sorry, guys.
We hit a slump.
We had a slump. We're taking a break. No, we are not taking a break. We will be back next week. Thanks for listening. In between now and then, if you want to give us your thoughts on Promising Young Woman, or you want to tell us a movie that you like, or tell us what book you think we should read, whatever you want to do, or if you just want to see the fun content we make, you can find us on Instagram at the Satire Fire Pod, Pod, or on TikTok, Blue Sky, and YouTube at the Satire Fire. Follow us, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, share with your father or your uncle who works for an oil company. Tell him to donate to the Satire Fire. And next week, if we already mentioned this at the beginning, but just as a reminder, next week we will be starting a new series on what, Samuel?
We will be starting a new series on American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. So strap in for that one. I think it's going to be a fun and interesting one. We'll have to see what Sydney thinks about it, and we might end up extending our streak of having completely differing opinions, because I really like this book.
Whoa, okay.
But
I just started, so
our intro and outro are remixes of the song 48 by Cullah. And like Sid said, thank you for listening, and be sure to share it with some friends, because you found it wherever you found it. Other people might not know where it is, though, so you got to show it to them.
Yeah, you got to show it to them. All right, thank you. We will see you next week. This is the Satire Fire. I'm Sydney.
And I'm Samuel.
Bye.
Bye.
I just about come to the end of the road. Here, I've just about lost patience with you people. You get your ass out into the mountains or someplace, or hide in there and watch that damn tube. But if not, fuck it. I'm done. In fact, my sermon